So I mean, after that, we play the former club of our chairman Rasmus Ankerson, Brentford. So yeah, it's been really tough, Martin, and the past couple of times. The first, we were mentioning it before we came on. The last time we beat Brentford was a pretty rampant 4-1, which was actually Sport Republic's first game. And I said to you how I felt coming away from the stadium. I felt like we're in for an absolute ride, and that it has been, but not in the way I thought at the time. So I mean, the two after that were 2-3-0s, both away. We're playing them at home again. How do you fancy it?
Oh mate, I think the next whatever happens Sunday, against Man United, what will be there. But I always earmark the next two home games of being really, really big. Like every game's big, but it's pivotal that we're going to need to walk away with something out of those two. With Brentford being the better chance, I could watch Tottenham in the week just gone in the Champions League against AC Milan, and I thought they were dreadfully poor. You know, they don't go at teams. They're not the Tottenham Hotspur that they used to be. I'm hopefully might go and have a watch of them tomorrow against Forest. But for me, the Brentford game's the one that you really want to try and win, because if you can really get the fans behind us, I thought the fans were great against Leicester. But if we can create that atmosphere, get that buzz going, get behind them, and we just need to start fast. We don't start games particularly fast, but you need to go. You're going to have to get them. They don't play a lot of football. I watched them last week, and they hit the ball long a lot, don't they? They don't play a lot on the deck at all. They're looking for Tony. They're looking in behind. I think that this with us. I think there's bottom of the. There was a table there on teams that keep possession. They were like one of the third bottom teams for keeping possession, but obviously the position in the league's really good. Us and Bournemouth were the other two that were below them. So obviously we don't keep the ball very well at all. But then that statistic could have been marred by the Nathan Jones style of play. But I think we have to win, mate. We have to win that game if we can. We have to get something.
Yeah, I think it's crucial getting something. I mean, I've seen everyone. Oh, how many points would you like to get out of the next three games? As in United, Leicester. United, Brentford, Spurs. So I'd like to get 9. That'd be great, but we won't. So I mean, realistically, 4 points would be a dream out of those 3. I think, like you say, we will talk more on Spurs next week in depth, but I do think they are more than gettable. Again, Brentford is such a big game, and we say it all the time now, but we make it harder for ourselves. I do think that Thomas Frank is one of the. I mean, for me, he's a top. I was going to say top 5 manager in the league. It's a big statement, but I don't think tactically Thomas Frank is sort of anything different to what the league's seen before. It's not like anything that's completely new, and he's come with these unbelievable ideas. I just think that as a man, he just seems to. He must be an unbelievable manager, because the way he conducts himself in the press and the way that his players clearly respond to him is outstanding. And the funny thing is he was a Rasmus recruit, so I wonder if he's gonna be wary of that and try to put one over on us again. After Rasmus has obviously moved on. What do you think on Thomas Frank?
Oh, mate, what a job he's done. Unbelievable manager. Really impressed with the job he's done there. I'll tell you what I really, really like. They've got, since that promotion to the Premier League, they've got a real good connect between the fans, the players, and the club. Like the atmosphere. I had Gary Neville touch upon it, and I think Carragher maybe touched on it on Sky the other day. They reckon it's one of the best atmospheres in the division to go to. And it is, they really connect with the fans. He connects with the fans. He's a proper clubman. And it, like you say, he's getting the best out of the players. He probably technically doesn't have the best squad in the league, but he's certainly getting the best out of them. And the difference of what we've wanted all season is a goal scorer in Tony. He's going to be suspended in a minute. There's no doubt about that. But God, he's a good penalty taker. What his technique is so unique when it comes to taking penalties, isn't it, Josh? It's just like, wow.
Yeah, I seen him do an interview last week, and this sort of asked him, because there was a delay in taking the penalty, and he sort of said, he said, what would you do? How'd you calm yourself? He just went, I just think of other things like going on holiday and stuff. I just thought, do you know what? You got to be ice cool, fair play. But I mean, yeah, he is waiting for that inevitable ban. It would have been nice if he got it before we played him, but typically he won't, and he'll probably score knowing him. I read a stat today and it really shook me, because I thought, wow, like they've come so far in such a short period of time. Look at where they are, and it was the fact that and it's same for Brighton, because it's very similar. Is that their all-time Premier League top goal scorer is Ivan Toney, and I think it's like 23 goals, which is absurd. And you look, and Brighton is the same. I think there's a joint is Murray and Mope, and they both got 26. I think, look at where these guys are now. They've got next to no history in the Premier League, and they've just seemed to have cracked it. I mean, not that it's got longevity or anything, because it's hard to say. I mean, we were those guys 5 years ago, 6 years ago, so it's hard to say. But like, I mean, the job that they're both doing, and especially Brentford, it just seems to be, yeah, it just seems to be a great place to be. Is for the likes of fans. The team seems to respond well to everything they do.
It's momentum, isn't it? I think that's the biggest thing in football. If you can get momentum early in a season and you can keep that flowing, you look back to our days when we got promotion from League One, and the momentum that we gained in that season, going through League One, get promotion, then the Championship, it kind of just led us into the next season, and that kept going. And then obviously when we went into the Premier League, it was a little bit sticky for a while. But football is, and it played to people's strengths as well, isn't it? Like we always used to play to Ricky Lambert's strengths. They play to Ivan Toney's strengths, Brentford, don't they? And it works. He scores goals, and it's all about a goal scorer. And that's the one thing that we needed, and we still don't look like we will have. I think that's where we come undone, because we don't have that Danny Ings, and we never replaced Amanda Broya. They didn't replace those two, and it will probably haunt us at the end of the season. But touching on Brentford, mate, play to his strengths, momentum that's what football's all about.
It is momentum and unity, so important, and they've both. It seemed like for Brentford, it aligned. Erasmus's favourite word. It all aligned at the same time, and they've ran with it. And fair play to them. Like we say, Tony is obviously going to get this inevitable ban. I won't touch too much on the politics of it, because it's a bit sticky, and you compare it with other bans, and whatever. That's the FA's to deal with. That's fine. But I've actually written down Ivan Toney versus Yanni B ? I mean, that's quite frightening, because I just feel like Jan is so passive, and if he does play, obviously it depends on the weekend. It's the weekend's most important, but I just can't see Jan coming out on top of that one. Could you?
No, Salisu would play. You would think if he's fit, you would want to see Salisu. I think Belakocha's a lot quicker on the ground. I think we look better with Belakocha. Goes down a lot, Belakocha. If you notice, he seems to pick up a lot of. Don't know if he's got a niggly injury or he just has this tendency to end up on the deck. But yeah, he goes down fairly easy, Belakocha. But he's quick on the ground. I like his pace. I think he'd be really important to keep fit, Belakocha. But obviously, you wouldn't want to be without him for the Brentford game. No, fingers crossed that he comes through the weekend unscathed and is available for that home game against St Mary's, because, mate, it's the biggest night game that we've had there for many months, and we've had some big games there, haven't we?
Yeah, I think the last one, the biggest night game after that was Forest, and we were absolutely bitterly let down on that one.
Bottled it.
Yeah. Oh, it will be huge. The atmosphere, I expect, will be huge. I mean, we got to remember this game was supposed to take place months ago, before the passing of the Queen, and it was postponed. So this has been a long time. They'd already prepared for Brentford before. They whether it was under a different manager, the team were prepared to play Brentford the very next day, and it didn't happen. So, they refresh, new ideas. Brentford have carried on the same. We haven't. So I think, fresh. There's no reason. There's absolutely no reason why we can't go and why we can't get a result. There's no. I mean, it's at home. As bad as we have been at home, we should be looking to turn that corner and say, no, St Mary's is a fortress. If you want to come here, we're going to be difficult to beat. And teams like Brentford, we shouldn't be fearing. We shouldn't. Any team we shouldn't, but Brentford especially. I'm looking. I've been looking at the key battles on the field. I can't see anywhere but that final third for Brentford where we could come unstuck. I mean, they haven't got like the most they haven't got the best players in the league, have they? They're just really well organised. I think. You can correct me, but what do you think in terms of where the game can be won on the field? I feel like if we can cut that pass, cut that directness to Tony, and almost push him out the game, I think we the rest does it sort of
And we spoke about goalkeepers earlier on in the show. It's worth touching upon their goalkeeper, David Raya. He's been probably the informed goalkeeper in the league. I play a lot of the fantasy football league, and he's in a lot of people's teams because he's been fantastic. He'd get moved to a big club this summer, from what I believe. He'll end up at a top 4 club. There's any doubt about it. He on his day, he'd be a bit better than Danny Ward was at the weekend. Now, Danny Ward's probably one of the one of the great goalkeepers in the league. So we're going to be up against the top goalkeepers. We're going to have to get shots off against them. You need to get in and around their back four. But they do. I watch them and they do bypass their midfield. So I think you've got to put them under pressure. You have to, like you say, get them high up the field and work hard. And that high press that we did against Chelsea is sort of like one of that start to what we had. Need to try and dominate the ball a bit more. We haven't really done that a great deal this season. But I think like Theo's Walcott's presser, I watched it again today actually before we did the show tonight, and I really enjoy listening to what he said. And it just sometimes it doesn't matter if it's a bit scrappy, as long as we get a result. It doesn't matter if it's pretty. I'd be happy if every game was like it was against Leicester, as long as we get results. But he's a good goalie, Raya. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to beat him. That's for sure. Like you say, Samuel Dozie. Still like to see him in and around that. An option off the bench, pace to go at people, to get free kicks in and around the edge of the box. Still think it's needed.
Couldn't agree more. I think there's a couple of players that could really grab an opportunity against Brentford with two hands. I think Adozie is one of them, as you pointed out there. I think another one, and I might get pelters for it again, but I think if Sally doesn't play or Bella Kotchap doesn't play, I would definitely be having Chiletta Sarr in over Bednarek, just purely, and even if we've been less impressed in recent performances with him, but he's been described to me by several people as like he plays like a quarterback role. He's very good at doing that. He can, and if they're going to bypass their midfield, I think it's only, he's the sort of player who could deal with that. He's good in the air. And let's be fair, he's quite good at being a wind-up merchant. And Ivan Toney bites. We know that Ivan Toney bites. He's got that that Wilfried Zaha-esque attitude about him sometimes, where he just can't take the niggling from defenders. And I think if you add Douya in that mix, he could really, that could be the one for him that really suits him. Time will tell. I think there is a few players with a lot to prove, especially against Brentford. Maybe not so much against United. I mean, I'm praying, obviously, that they go out with no fear. But Old Trafford is tough, isn't it? Score prediction?
I'm going to go with a narrow 1-0 win. Southampton, same as the Leicester game. I think we'll win it. I think we've got a really good chance.
Okay, I like it. I am going to go for a 2-1 win. I think we'll go 1-0 down. And I think we'll have a comeback, and St Mary's will be rocking by the 85th minute, and also shitting itself, saying please don't score.
We need St Mary's to rock, Josh. It's one thing that we really need. It's too nice a place to come and play football sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these away teams, like my mate says to me, "Oh Christ, you would come and play here." He said, "It's like we're too nice." Like the Saints brass, let's get the beat going a bit more. Let's not have the funeral march. Let's just kind of get everyone going a bit,
Yeah,
I like the Saints brass, but just get amongst it, get the fans up for it,
I agree.
All these light displays, get rid of it all. Just get on with it, turn the tunes up and
get it going.
Get everyone rocking. Yeah, get everyone rocking.
Get it going.
I'm going with sort of four massive Saints fans from the Isle of Wight. We travel over and mate, we're talking about it already. We're buzzing for it because
it's
mate, if we can get a win and we go into the weekend, that really gives us a bit of confidence, and it's our last chance now.
It's huge, and it is huge, and yeah, I agree. I think get them up for it, and to touch on that quickly before I give you my score prediction. Oh no, sorry, I've done that, but just to touch on that quickly before we sort of close it off, I do want to say that you mentioned there about being a nice place to come and play, and I could not agree more. I was watching the other day. I was watching. I don't know if you've seen it, but Gary Neville does a thing called Soccer Box where he sits down with an ex pro, and it was Letizia, and he sat down with him, and they've gone through all the times they faced each other and Leticia's career and all that sort of stuff. And Gary Neville turned to him and said, "Your place was hard to come and play, like as in the Dell was a hard place." He said, "If I'm being honest with you, mate, we hated playing there." And that was a United team that was full of superstars. They were legends. Those players, it all went on to be, and the TIS responded by saying, "You would not believe the amount of former pros who have said that to me, that they hated coming and playing at the Dell." And he said, Gary Neville said, "What do you think that was about? Why did it?" He just said it was hostile. Everyone was so close and it was all packed in, and the pitch wasn't the greatest, and you really knew if you were to win, you had to be right at it. And we were always, no matter if we were underdogs, it was going to be hard because the atmosphere was unbelievable there. And I do think we lost a bit of it moving to St Mary's.
You're absolutely spot on, Josh, about when there was a massive opportunity missed by Rupert Lowe and that board of directors when they moved to St Mary's, that we needed St Mary's. But there was a trick miss because you could have just incorporated a little bit more. They went for the standard bowl-shaped stadium. It's the same as Leicester, wasn't it, at the time? It was the same as Derby at the time, very similar to the Stadium of Light because they're all being built at that time. But they did miss a trick with it, just to incorporate a few of the really cool little bits in the Dow that worked really well for us. And you could have incorporated that within the stadium a little bit. I think Arsenal did. I think Arsenal created something a bit, obviously it's a bigger club and bigger fan base. It's in the middle of London. It's totally different, but we did miss a trick with it. And it is a lot nice. It's always been the same at St Mary's. It's too nice a place to come and play football sometimes. I wish it was more intimidating, and it needs to be more intimidating when sides come and face us. I think you're absolutely correct in what you're saying. I back you up massively on it. It's a good point.
Yeah, and it did show from watching that. If you do get a chance, watch it. I mean, he might not be everyone's flavour right now, Tiz, but he is, at the end of the day, he's a legend of our football club, and he did, reflecting on his career and stuff, and it was interesting. There was lots of points about different managers. Alan Ball and afterwards in people like Gordon Strachan, and he mentioned a lot, and how people like Franny helped him out, and it was great. It was a great watch. So go and watch it. I think we did lose a bit, but when St Mary's does go, it's brilliant. It really is. I mean, you go, but we've had some nights, we've had some days, some stick out in your head. I think one of them for me, I think if we can recreate any type of atmosphere like the atmosphere we had when we beat Liverpool 3-2 after going 2-0 down, at that game, I lost my voice for the entire week. It was tough to beat that. And it just shows we're capable of it.
I think one of my favourites of memories was when we beat Tottenham, and James Ward-Prowse scored that late free kick.
Yeah, the free kick. Yeah,
when Hoberg was playing in midfield with him. Yeah, it was a great day. It was a great day.
Yeah, we have had some great days. Let's just hope that Wednesday night is one of those pins in the board that you remember. That I remember that night against Brentford when we turned them over. We smashed them 7-0.
You want them to turn up and play like they did last season, because they were probably, I think, look back at all the sides that played last season, they were probably the worst. They just had a really off day. They just didn't. That was a midweek game as well, to be fair. It was under the lights at St Mary's.
It was.
But they didn't show up that day. It was right at the end of our purple patch. It was the last good game at home. Like you said, Sport Republic come in and took over. The ride we were looking for. Let's not touch on it again.
Yeah, exactly. Just before we do end today, I do want to just read out an interesting comment we had on last week's video, and I will pose it to you, Martin, and see what you say to this. It was left by Super Saint Christoph, so thank you for your comment. And he said, "When are our fans going to admit that we have 4, maybe 5 genuine Prem players? Others are not." Can you argue against that? Has he got a case? Do you think he's right?
Yeah, he's got a case, to be fair. Yeah, I think he's got a case. What about you? Do you think he has?
Yeah, it's tough in it because when you're a professional and you've made it at the very top level, it's hard to discredit it sometimes and say, well, you're not a Prem player. But a lot of them you can look at and say, you're just not up to it, are you?
When I look at it, like Premiership standard, I think Lavia's going to the top. Ward-Prowse
Yep.
walking pretty much most sides in the Premier League.
I think that's the way you look at it. Who would they play for otherwise?
Walker-Peters,
Agreed.
Salisu, it could end up at Newcastle. Bella Kocher will continue to play in the Premier League. Adams will continue to play. But there's probably more. There's more than what he's saying, to be fair, in my personal opinion. It's tight. Yeah, there's a few that are not good enough at this moment in time, but they will be good enough. They will be good enough. But like we said earlier in the show, there's no time in the Premier League.
Yeah, there's no time.
You don't have time. You need to mix it. You need to mix it with the experience and young talent that's gonna flourish. You can't just do one or the other. You can't have a load of older experienced players and have no young players. You need to mix it. And I think Rasmus and the board of directors, they know that. They know that. They won't admit it, but they know.
They definitely behind closed doors had egg on their face, and I think Martin Semmens was probably slightly smug about it in the end. But we'll see. I would expect he was quite smug behind the scenes. But yeah, thank you for your comment. I do. Yeah, I think we've just summed up our thoughts there. I do understand where you're coming from, though. It is one of those with our players. Sometimes you can think get them all out, and sometimes they're the best thing in the world. But we can only hope that they perform this weekend. If you do want to leave a comment or at us on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, anything, search us up, the Southampton Way Podcast. Leave a comment. Can be anything, and we'll go through them. We'll pick out some. We'll read them out. We'll respond to them. It's good to get your interaction. I think we all need to get some stuff off our chest sometimes, especially being a Southampton fan. So yeah, I mean, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Martin, thank you for coming back on. I know it's trying circumstances.
I've enjoyed it. It's been good to speak to you. It's good to speak to you about my love and my passion, just like you.
Always, mate. But yeah, we had a tricky one, so thank you for coming back. I really appreciate it. Yeah, we'll wrap it up. So thank you very much for listening. Catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Just search the Southampton Way Podcast. And do remember, if you want to be notified for when we upload, just subscribe to our YouTube. Thank you very much, everybody, and speak to you soon.